It is Sunday morning, and it's the last Sunday of the month. Now, I am. I have done some shifts here. I am coming to you from Texas, and
What?
yeah, I'm down in Texas. And I tell
You and
you
Elon
what,
Musk?
you're
You
going to
and
be a
Elon
long
Musk
post.
hanging out? Are you?
Do what?
You hanging out with your buddy Elon Musk? Are you?
Oh no, but I tell you what, I am hanging out with our local police department. This is my criminal trespass citation for getting in good trouble today. I took my family out and said, if you don't like what they did, here's some signs. Let's go down to the street and let's stand out on Main Street and wave them. And so we did. And then we met Bubba, who didn't like the fact that we were standing in front of his laundromat. But I could tell this Bubba wasn't the Bubba that had carried a lot of laundry baskets. Is more like the Bubba. The only basket he ever carried was a shrimp basket. But anyway, try not to smile, David. I know I shouldn't make
It
fat
hurt me,
jokes.
man.
You know what? There are times when even I, the most enlightened person I know, there are times when even I go, "What a fat piece of crap that one is!" It's like, and it's just.
I don't know, man. I'm riding a bike every miles a day. I look like I carry a lot of shrimp baskets.
I got to tell you, I mean, used to be when I was a kid, people were tall and thin and slim and good looking, and I go out in the world today and we have got a health crisis in this country. We are not eating right, and people are carrying an extra 50 to 100 pounds that they should not be carrying. It's not healthy. And
I'm feeling seen here, man.
We were at Disneyland yesterday, and the number of people driving these little carts, and I kept wanting to say, "Get out of the goddamn cart and walk off that fat," because now I know that's not fair, right? Because there are a lot of
hate mail, David. I hope you're happy.
Yeah, but no, look, I know there's a lot of disabled people who need carts, but I know for a fact there's a lot of goddamn lazy people who say, "I don't feel like walking off my fat." I know it. I've seen it. I've listened to them talk. And it's like, for God's sake, it's like if I have to park my car at the far end of the parking lot, I'm delighted because the walk is good for me. And the and you go in and look at what people are putting in their shopping carts. They're putting all that processed food. It's no wonder people are overweight. They're not eating right and they're not exercising right. And I'm not the one to preach it because I don't exercise that much, but I walk. So
I don't know, man. They got me on a high fiber diet, and well, you were here. You ate here at my house for a couple of days here 2 weeks ago, and I'm riding 20 miles every morning on a bike and eating high fiber. So I don't know, man. It's I will say it was a hell of a lot easier to do it when I was 20 than it is, 40 years later. I can tell you that.
When I was in my 20s, I would ride my bike from Van Nuys to the beach, which was like a 40-mile ride and back. And I was like, I didn't think anything of it. I'd ride over Sepulveda, take Sunset, and I wouldn't think anything twice about that ride. And to this day, I have great legs. But other than that, last time I got on a bike, my legs hurt because I hadn't been on a bike in 30 years. So.
I ride every day and my legs hurt. I don't know. This morning,
I don't feel so bad anymore.
Storming last night, so the roads were nothing but puddles. But I'll say this, man, if you're, it's a hell of a lot easier I was in the military most of my life, so it was, forced exercise. But then after I retired, I coasted for a decade. Well, I'm paying for it now. I can tell you that, man. It all goes to hell pretty goddamn fast. So, speaking of health, what are we going to talk about today, fellas?
I don't know. What is anything interesting happened this week?
Only half the population suddenly lost their, right to be human beings.
I wrote a little rant about it the other day. And,
my Twitter stream. I'm watching. I'm actually. You guys are pasting again on one of my monitors against the Twitter stream. Scroll here because this morning
we have Hawaiian flowers growing in our backyard, and it's like every time I get stressed out, it's like, oh yeah, Hawaii.
Yeah, all my plumeria are blooming at the moment. So
Yeah.
you stand on the yard and it smells like Hawaii. And of course, if you're downtown Honolulu, it smells like flowers and sewage, which is a really weird, economy. But anyway, yeah, this has been a pretty rough goddamn week for a lot of people, and for America. I think
Well, I think
we knew it was coming. We know it was coming. I don't know how long we've been warning people, all of us. I get yelled at online for saying I told you so here yesterday and the day before. But I don't know what the hell else to say at this point. I told you so. I fucking told you so. I don't know how many times I have to say I told you so. You should shut the fuck up. It's just
don't tell me Bernie or bust. Don't tell me Hillary's emails. Don't tell me any of that crap. Politics. This is what I know about politics. I'm old enough to be able to say that politics is not a great leap forward. That's a great faceplant forward. The Chinese proved that with Mao Zedong. Politics is step by step. It's negotiation. It's piece at a time, one step forward, and it's deliberately designed into the Constitution to avoid government by stampede. That things have to happen slowly and carefully in a process of negotiation. What has happened is the Republican Party doesn't believe in negotiation anymore. We have got a fascist cult, very much on the same playbook that the Nazi Party used in Germany. I'm sorry if people are offended by that, but it's the same goddamn playbook of we're going to obstruct everything that, even if it's good for the country, we're going to obstruct everything unless we're in power, and then we're going to do whatever the fuck we want, regardless of what the Constitution says. And
David,
let me
hear what?
We have 5 fanatics on the Supreme Court, even that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court cannot control, those 5 renegade judges, 4 of whom crossed their fingers when they testified before Congress and said Roe versus Wade is settled law, and then voted to overturn it. So, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am now. I wasn't yesterday, but I am today, because if you need evidence that the Republican Party is not interested in the well-being of the United States of America, you've got Mitch McConnell, who wouldn't let Merrick Garland be confirmed as a justice out of some stupid justification, but put Amy Barrett Comey, whatever her name is, on the Supreme Court in only 4 days. I was like, come on. Does anybody need any more evidence that we have got a serious civil war going on? It's a political civil war, but it is a civil war that we can only win by outvoting the bastards and throwing them into the dustbin of history. Okay, that's my rant.
It is, there's nothing you've said that I disagree with. In fact, it's everything that I can do the last couple of days to not speak almost entirely in Navy profanity, because I don't know how many times, I've been writing about politics for going on 20 years now, and I don't know how many times the question came up in those 2 decades of how in the hell did, let's say, Nazi Germany happen? How did that happen? How did Germans sit by and watch the rise of genocidal lunatics, right? And you're looking at it right here. You're looking at it, didn't happen all at once. It happened over decades, and you're looking at it right here. You're looking at people that are so fixated on owning the liberals or owning their political enemies or sticking it to everybody. I see it out here every day. David, you were here. David stayed at it. For those in the audience that don't know, David stayed with me here in the Panhandle of Florida for a couple of days here 2 weeks ago. We're working on a book together, and he got a chance to look around out here. Well, itself, city downtown, where I live across the bay, is very much 1950s the South. And in fact, these were some of the last places that were sundown towns and places that are infamous for lynching. And that mindset hasn't. Some of those people are still here. They're still alive, still in charge. And again, some of these people, I ride, like I said, I ride a bike every morning. I ride 20 to 30 miles every day. I ride past people's houses, and they are, in a lot of cases, yards full of shit and broken cars and dog crap and and big signs that say protected by Smith and Wesson. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I protected. Who's going to steal your shit? I'm liable to bring a loaded shit over here and leave it for you. But again, these people have a pot to piss in, but they're absolutely convinced that some guy that's allegedly a billionaire who lives in a 30-foot tall or a 30-story tall tower in downtown Manhattan with his name on his side in golden letters 30 feet high is somehow looking out for them. And they will happily burn the city down. They'll let their kids fucking die to piss you off, to make you mad, to make you angry. Triggered. That's the greatest. That's the line. This we've become a nation of cutters, of people that would slash their own goddamn wrist open just to stick it to the people they don't like. Just 30 years of Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck and Ann Coulter and people on Fox News with little bow ties that are heirs to vast fortunes telling you to hate your goddamn neighbors. And I don't know how the hell we get out of this. The last time we wound up in this boat, half the country had to get blown up, and we had to kill a hell of a lot of Americans until everybody was all chagrined afterwards. And so, oh, maybe killing each other in civil war isn't such a great fucking idea. But you can't convince people before the war that war's a bad idea. It's only after everybody's dead, the country's burned down, that suddenly everybody says, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea. And that's it. That's where we're headed if we don't make a hard turn sometime very soon.
Yeah. I actually had to take a mental health weekend, and then I got the note from Bob. Oh yeah, we're doing the end of the month conference. I said, okay, I will do that conference.
Leave it up to Bob to screw up your mental health. I'm just saying, leave it up to the publisher. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah. It's because we've been talking about this right-wing movement that dates all the way back to the 50s when the John Birch Society laid out in their blue book and their black book exactly the plan that we have seen they've brought to fruition. It took them 60, 70 years. This is exactly what the fanatics on the right wing set out to do. And all they had to do was convince enough people to join that cult, and they're taking over school boards. They're filling the judge seats. They got the Supreme Court. They've been playing obstructionist politics in Congress. My congressman is a smart guy, and he has said at the town hall meetings, he said, our government is broken because, and here's the problem, the Democrats are still playing by the rules of the Constitution, and the Republicans are playing by their own rules of fuck everything. And it's kind of like you're trying to play chess and they're trying to play battleship.
I agree. I see reports in the comments scrolling that my sound is a little flickered. I just made an adjustment of the microphone, so hopefully that'll fix what happens here. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You have one outfit that is interested in playing, but this happened to me. I've seen this. I've been watching this on my social media feeds for the last couple of days since the announcement dropped. Was and they say, look, man, I told you so. This was coming, and we're all very angry about it. And what you get is you get these tone policing lefties who roll into your mentions with now's not the time. Now's not the time to say, I told you so. Now's the time to let people breathe. No, it's not, asshole. This is the problem. This tone policing nonsense. And you're trying to make everybody feel fucking good all the time. While you're doing that, the opposition is marching in the street. You hear the goddamn goose steps coming. People are losing their goddamn rights. And you're over here worried about the language that I'm using. This is the problem, man.
Yeah, it's kind of like
that's why you're getting your ass kicked.
Every time there's a mass shooting, we have to listen to people say, too soon, can't talk about it. Excuse me, it is never fucking too soon to talk about the safety of children. And I don't fucking care what, it's like, I have said the word fucking more times in the past 3 days than I said in the past 3 years.
This is what happens when you stay at my house for a couple of days, Matt.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm still recovering. My language is still recovering. I tried to write a little bit on that story we're working on. It's like, wait a minute, fucking is not part of this story.
Not to use profanity. Anyway, again, though, we're looking at this. what I guess what chaps my ass here, probably more than anything else, and is the fact that none of this is a surprise. And there are, that's what chaps my ass, is that there are many people today who act like they're surprised. Holy shit, we didn't think they'd actually do it. Really? Because for 30 goddamn years, they've been telling you every day, this is what we're going to do.
Hillary warned us. Hillary warned us. There's no question. She said, this is what's going to happen if you vote for Trump. This is what's going to happen. And people, no. Yeah, except pay the fuck attention. And you know what? Let me make a point here. We have been watching too much television, and we think everything gets tied up neatly by the last commercial, or if it's a mini series, by the last episode of the closure. And so what has happened is we've become a very impatient nation. We want, well, we voted Joe Biden in. Why isn't everything fixed? He's had a year and a half. He's had 2 years. Why isn't everything fixed? It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. It's one step at a time. But we are so fucking impatient. We have no memory. We have no historical memory that we don't recognize. I mean, people have already forgotten what Trump tried to do. Said, no, pay the fuck attention. This goes back all the way to JFK and obstructionism. It goes back all the way to Ike, when the John Birch Society accused him of being soft on communism. It is pay the fuck attention to history, because what we're dealing with didn't just happen today. It's the result of a long, involved process. And we have a nation of impatient illiterates who want gratification now, and they don't want to have to think about how to get it. And I will tell you, I'm just going to go off. My son, despite all the crap that happened to him in foster care and everywhere else, is one of the most enlightened people I know. We sit out in the backyard 2, 3, 4 times a week, every evening, and I listen to him as he works through his mind, as he sorts through the ideas, and you can see critical thinking at work. I'm so proud of this. I don't know where he learned it, right? But I am so proud of this young man. He turned 38 on Friday, but I'm so proud of him because he doesn't take anything for granted. It's like he'll spend half the day on his phone. I don't know why he doesn't use a laptop, but reading articles and looking at videos and looking at all sides of the issue. And then he'll come back and say, Dad, here's what I figured out. And I would say 95 times out of 100, he is absolutely right on the money. Or he's agreeing with me, or I'm agreeing with him. But this is the kind of critical thinking that people have to apply. You cannot just do knee-jerk slogan politics. It doesn't work. That's how you let other people control your life. So, yeah. Did I lose you? Did you get muted? What happened? Did I lose the sound here?
I can hear you fine, David.
All right. Okay. Apparently my microphone did something. We lost Jim's audio. All right. Jim is going to reset the internet. So anyway, you heard my rant. And I could rant all morning, but
well, I sent you guys both a
let me say this. Sean is very good at ranting. He gets upset. He'll rant for an hour. I'll listen politely. And what happens, though, is we ultimately come to, can we do anything about that right now, here and now? No. We can vote. We can do this. We can do that. We contribute money. We can do that. But right now, here and now, what we're going to focus on is taking care of our kids, remodeling the house, getting ready, because we want to move to Vermont in a couple of years. So we're working on what we can change. We're working on what we can do. And I think if 100 million Americans each are committed to taking one small step, that adds up to a lot of giant steps. But we're going to have to organize and unite. And you cannot play chess against Battleship. We're going to have to learn how to play Battleship. We have to take out Mitch McConnell politically, and I'm not advocating violence.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. We got you back.
All right, bueno. All right, I reset my my monster microphone here, so it should be all right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's we again, when this country finally falls apart, the guy was responsible for it is going to be Mitch McConnell. And if I come across him in the, we're all living in the wasteland afterwards. So the first person that comes across him, I want you to promise that you're going to kick his ass, because that guy, man, is probably more responsible than anybody else. Well, I don't know, him and Newt Gingrich maybe, but
yeah, definitely Newt. Newt is.
But again, you have a bunch of people that are not interested in anything but power. You're exactly right. They don't care what the consequences are. We were talking about this morning. One of the things that I said online this morning was, in about 9 months, there's going to be some men that suddenly discover that they are involuntarily a parent. Now, I grant you that in this country, we don't generally hold those men accountable, but that seems like a course of action to me that actually could be managed. We could force states and legislatures to pass laws that require those men to be accountable for their offspring. You made abortion illegal. You're working to outlaw birth control. You don't get to just hit it and quit it, man. 9 months from now, you better start ponying up. And not even that. Once that baby's born, unless you're the Virgin Mary, if you believe in that kind of thing, it took a guy. It took two people to conceive that child. And we're holding women responsible for that now, monetarily, physically, their entire lives, all of it. And the guys who pass these laws, in large part, are like my idiot Congressman Matt Gaetz. It's time to hold those people responsible. We need laws that require those men to be responsible for their actions, both being present, monetarily, legally, all of it, until that kid is out of college. I guarantee you, Roe will get reinstated goddamn fast if you pass those laws.
Yeah, I think.
Again, but as hundreds of people have pointed out on my social media feed this morning, the odds of actually holding those men accountable in this country, in this political climate, is, ironically, slim to none.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think every woman who is forced to carry a child to term should sue the husband, the sperm donor for child support.
My suggestion here in Florida was, if you are, we just saw a case this morning of rape of a woman that was held hostage, that was raped, and I guess they caught the guy, but they said, I live in the state of Florida where now, 2 days later, if that woman is pregnant, she's going to be forced to carry that rapist baby to term. I don't know if I want that guy in my life, but it seems like Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, and the Republican legislature should be liable for childcare at a minimum. You know what I'm saying? For times 10,000.
Yeah. I will note this morning, Governor Gavin Newsom of California said that the state of California is committed to protecting a woman's right to choose. Now, what that means is any woman in the country who wants to come to Disneyland, this is a great place to visit, and we have great beaches. And, if you, I'm not in a position to financially help, and we don't take boarders anymore, but I know there are a lot of people who, if you want to come visit Disneyland, let us know. And there are companies, there's a list of some 30 or 40 companies that have already said they will pay transportation costs for any employee who needs a trip to Disneyland. So, but that's a grassroots kind of thing. And that's out of reach for a lot of young women, a lot of women who don't know that's available. They and women who aren't working for those companies. So,
right.
Yeah.
But again,
the Supreme Court is deliberately inflicting pain on uncountable numbers of young women and children who. One of the things that happens with abortion, believe me, I've studied this a lot when I adopted my son, is you get if you have forced birth, you get a lot of kids that are damaged in one way or another. You get a lot of Down syndrome, you get a lot of birth defects, you got a lot of kids who are HIV positive or have other conditions that make them unadoptable. It's because you go in to adopt a kid, I want a perfect baby. I don't want this one. I don't want that. One of the things they told me with my son is he's hard to place, which meant unadoptable. And I said, I want to meet this kid. And if he has a big heart, I'm fine. And I was right. I want to call them up 30 years later and say, I told you so. He turned out fine.
He's pretty great.
He knows what he's dealing with. He's very self-aware. He says, I got to deal with this stuff that happened in my past. But he's resilient enough that he said, I have a kid now. I have to reinvent myself to be a good dad for my son. I said, yeah, now you know what I did 30 years ago. Okay. So, yeah. But the thing is in researching what the foster care system, it was heartbreaking because the foster care system is not equipped to handle the babies we already have. It is not going to be equipped to handle another 1 million babies per year.
Right.
I don't know
especially the ones that, like you said, that are unplaceable or hard to place or whatever euphemism that we're using. Because again, this is Snopes, the goddamn fact checking site, because there's a reference in the decision that literally references enough babies for adoption. And while I didn't say that's what the justices said, it's still there in the decision as a footnote that we produce enough babies for adoption is justification underneath all this stuff. I said Snopes ding me on it. He's forced me to take it down. But if you go and pull up that 300-page decision and you read through it, there's that footnote.
I got to tell you something. There. I have to tell you this. I have been through this. Now, I mean, it's like I did my research. I did 2 years of research 30 years ago, and I kept up on a lot of the stuff. And I will tell you, anyone who claims adoption is an option, that it is an option to abortion, they are full of shit.
They're not even just saying it's an option. They're saying it's not. It's like a solution.
There's a shortage of qualified adoptive parents. There's a shortage of foster homes. And the people who are qualified to adopt, even the best of them are looking for a blank slate. They want the little baby. They don't want to deal with the older child who may have been abused. They don't want to deal with the older child who has various special needs. They don't want to deal with that. It's like, and Harlan Ellison once said I was the most courageous man he knew because I took on the challenge of an older special needs kid. And I said, yeah, no, I didn't think of it that way. He's just a little boy who needed a dad. I did what was necessary. And don't talk to me about courage. I did what was in front of me. But I will tell you this, people who talk about adoption that casually have no idea what adoption is about. And I've confronted a couple and said, so how many kids did you adopt? I said, well, not me personally, but for people who,
right.
And then they come back to me and they say, and how many have you adopted? I said, only one, but it was a special needs case that they considered hard to place. So yeah, so at least I did my part of it. If I had had a partner in life, it'd been one of those couples where we'd have adopted 7 kids. But I don't want to be outnumbered. I want some writing time. But right. I'm selfish that way. But yeah, but I am so impressed about the gay couples that have adopted whole families of kids to keep the siblings together. That's marvelous. Those are the real heroes.
But they're busy outlawing that too. And this is what kills me is that, it's that right here. Looked at some, Cruz talking about how this is a great thing for protecting families. I'm like, whoa, families? You mean families as long as they're cis white males married to Christian women and they live in a little house with a picket fence in Texas and a great victory for families. Yeah, their kids don't go to fucking Texas schools, sure. And as long as your family's a traditional family, your family's not gay, your family's not queer, your family's not non-traditional, sure, great victory for this mindset. And I'm watching these conservative senators from Marsha Blackburn to Ted Cruz to John Cornyn last night talking to, making the same goddamn comments. And they can't even seem to see the bias in their own statements because when they're talking about this kind of thing, they're not talking about you, David. They're not talking about anybody. They're talking about their version of what a family is. One white Christian man, one white Christian woman, and 2.5 little white children. And they have no idea the complexity of the rest of the universe to these guys. Again, this is we've talked about this before. I run into people in the sci-fi community of like 2 basic flavors. There's the there's a type that are awed by the vastness of the universe and want to go out and explore and meet weird intelligences that are not like them. And then there's the other types that, want to go out into the universe and conquer everything and kill anything that's different. And you see that reflected. You see that reflected here in American politics, where there is a minority of people in this country, and they are a goddamn minority, who think that the entire country should be little white Christian people, that 1950s nuclear family. I hate that I get from people that holler at me because I keep asking the question. I asked it again just the other day. What do you mean when you say "Make America Great Again"? When was America great in your mind? And the answer inevitably is the 1950s, the little idyllic time of white picket fences and post-war and industrialization and a car in the garage and yada, yada, yada. But in reality, folks, I can see you talking about audio being iffy. I've done everything that I can on this end. I think it's some kind of connection. My equipment's all working. I don't know. It must be the internet. I live in the Panhandle of Florida, so my internet's pretty crappy. So I'm just going to have to do the best I can here. But again, those folks that talk about the 1950s, they're not even talking about the 1950s. They're talking about the white people experience in suburban America in the 1950s. They're not talking about what happened if you were the wrong color on the wrong side of the track in the 1950s. They're not talking about Jim Crow laws. They're not talking about the women, the young girls that had to go away for a summer and came back with a little sister, remember? They're not talking about any of that kind of stuff. They're not talking about the veterans who came home from World War II and beat the shit out of their families for the next 40 fucking years, because we didn't talk about that kind of thing. This idyllic past that they talk about making America great again. That's a fantasy that never existed. And yet that's literally what they're trying to do right now, to create this America that never existed and that they themselves wouldn't want to live in. All right. They're all yelling at me about my audio, so you talk for a while.
What Jim said. Oh, wait a minute. I have to point the other way. What Jim said. I don't know. I sometimes I'm tired. It's like I'm tired of arguing into ignorance, and look, it's been in front of us, and I'm going to go back to that same analogy. The Democrats want to play chess, and the Republicans are playing battles. Boom. This goes back to Ronald Reagan. Actually, it goes back to Nixon. Nixon was the last liberal in the Republican Party. He got disgraced because he was corrupt. When he was forced out of office for his corruption, please don't tell me, oh, Nixon was railroaded. Don't even go there. We have the evidence. Even the Republicans abandoned Nixon in 1974, okay? So, but that left a power vacuum in the Republican Party. And the first real clue was when Vice President Nelson Rockefeller showed up at the Republican National Convention. He was booed by the right-wing fanatics. Your own vice president was booed by the fanatics in the party, and that was a warning sign. And Jerry Ford failed to say, we are not a party of fanatics. He did not drive the fanatics out of the party. So what happened?
They needed him.
And so we get Ronald Reagan. And we got Ronald Reagan because Jimmy Carter was too moral a man to declare war on Iran when they captured 450 American citizens. It was it was 30 some American citizens for 450 days.
Yeah, 442 days, yeah.
But during Jimmy Carter's administration, no Americans were killed by terrorists. Ronald Reagan sent George Bush overseas to make a deal. Don't release those hostages till I'm president. And they campaigned on that. Reagan got to be president, and the day he took office, that's when the hostages were released. Do you need any more evidence that the deal was in place? All right.
Well, it's the same. Go ahead. But that's the same. You're talking about Reagan and Nixon. Well, the same guy was pulling the strings in the background in both campaigns, and Lee Atwater, and they pulled the same shit. Nixon pulled the same shit with the Paris peace talks in 1968.
Yeah.
Same
All
thing.
So,
Same rule book.
Ronald Reagan ended the equal time rule. He didn't cut, and it's not, blah 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 blah, and he made it sound moral, right? But you know what? The people pulling his strings said, "We want you to get rid of that." And what did he do? He gave Rupert Murdoch citizenship. Rupert Murdoch didn't have to jump through the same hoops as anyone else. Rupert Murdoch is suddenly an American citizen, sets up Fox News, the Republican Party propaganda channel. Not just a Republican Party propaganda channel, but a right-wing fanatic propaganda channel that was determined to divide the country, to polarize us, that liberals are the enemy. And they did a great job of it. And then Newt Gingrich writes this GOPAC memo about how to demonize liberals. And so you've got this incredible building thing of, we are going to demonize the opposition and treat them like they are the enemy. And that is what they've been doing since the Reagan years. Yep. We used to have a government where Republicans and Democrats negotiated across the aisle, and it didn't matter whether a Republican or Democrat was president. What was signed into law was honored by both parties. Once it was settled law, you didn't argue with it, you made it work. But what the Republicans started doing with Reagan is, if they didn't like a law, they ignored it, or they repealed it, or they ripped out great handfuls of government wiring so it couldn't work. Butts and Watts, the Department of Interior and Agriculture, they didn't go in there to run their departments. They went in there to destroy their departments.
That's exactly right. Right. Watts was, and most Americans nowadays, if you mention James Watts, they couldn't even tell you who the hell that guy was or what he did. But that guy, you're absolutely correct. That guy, they didn't believe in environmental regulations. They didn't believe in the environment. They didn't believe in preserving the country for the future. It was drill baby drill and dig baby dig right now. And absolutely. And you're seeing the consequences of that mindset to this day.
Yes.
But yeah, again, we go on and on with this stuff. It's
and when I try to tell people about this, and they accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist, right? Like, okay, and meanwhile you're telling me the moon landing was faked. Okay. You got that from Glenn Beck? Oh yeah. The most credible man in
right.
Yeah, the only good
thing.
Right,
like I said, I have people.
Fox noise.
I literally have people on here telling me, every day there are people that are throwing conspiracies at me, one thing or another. People that should know better are throwing crap at me, and then they come back and say, "How dare you say that this decision thrown down the road is going to result in women being prosecuted for miscarriages?" Well, you think that's a conspiracy because it's happening already. There are women in prison right now for having miscarriages that were deemed negligent homicide. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to get worse. And I know it's going to get worse. Again, I'm not Nostradamus. It's going to get worse because these people are literally telling you that that's what they're going to do. And again, logically, that's where they have to go. They have to go there because if you say, as some 6 states have already declared in the last 2 days, that life begins at fertilization, not even implantation, but at fertilization. If that's human life, then by definition, whenever that life ends accidentally, it has to be investigated. Just as if it died in a car accident or it died because walked in a guy in the house, you have to investigate that. So in states where you literally make it the law that life begins at fertilization, because that's what conception means, then you, by definition, any time that life ends unexpectedly, it has to be investigated for possible negligent homicide. And literally, you say, oh my God, that's alarmist. You're being hysterical. Maybe you should be paying attention because we're passing laws in states right now that literally require miscarriages to be investigated for possible negligent homicide. Now, they're not going to apply that law equally. We all know that. They're going to, if you're rich and white and well connected, you're not gonna wind up in jail for having a miscarriage. But some people are. And you're going to see it happen. And that's where we're going. And the same people that are calling me a conspiracy theorist for saying that.
I've had. Hang on a minute.
Where's this music coming from, man? I'm hearing like weird music. What's happening? Is that you?
Oh no, something popped up on the other monitor. Sorry about that. What I was going to say is I've had people say, not recently, but I know they're still thinking it, is we're going to line you libtards up against the wall and execute you. It's like, okay. You're pretending that libtards don't own guns. I will tell you something, and I'm not going to go into any detail, but thinking about the liberals I know, I can name, without even off the top of my head, I can name at least 5 who own guns but don't talk about it. And then I can name another 5 who do talk about what guns they own. And it's like, and that is just casually, because I haven't even stopped to think about all the people I know. I know a trans woman who, after somewhere in the process of transition, she decided she was going to get a gun to protect herself. I think there are a lot of gay people, a lot of lesbians, a lot of trans people, a lot of people who have gotten guns for self-protection. I haven't talked about it, but I do hope they're going to the range and practicing so they can get a good grouping on the 10 en masse. But
right. But again, you're looking at this. You literally have people say, when you say that, you say, line liberals up against the wall and shoot. And the people say, no, that's hysterical. You're just saying that. Really? Because I am literally hearing the more extreme, what right now is considered extreme, right-wing politicians saying this out loud, not even being shy about it. And there are a dozen preachers that I can punch it into Google right now, call it up. You've got a guy here 2 weeks ago that literally was on my Twitter feed talking about how gay people should be lined up against a wall and shot in the back of the head. This is literally what I was trying to figure that one out. The guy said, line up against the wall and shot in the back of the head. I'm like, I'm not
they
sure
want
you
us
understand.
to face the wall. We have to face the wall.
Yeah, like facing the wall. I don't quite understand the logistics of this, but the bottom line is they're not afraid to say this out loud. And not only that, it took a week for social media to take those posts down, and only after thousands of reports. Right? And again, at the moment, sure, those are extreme voices, just as they were in the 1920s, 1922, 1923 in Germany. But by 1935, that was the mainstream message. Yeah, shit doesn't happen overnight. It happens step by step, little by little, and we're not 1922. We're more 1932 now.
Well, I will tell you this. Look at the history of 100 years ago, and the Republicans were in control of the government, and they were looting the economy with the cartels and trusts and corporate,
Sure. Teddy Roosevelt is famous as the trust buster for breaking that shit up.
But what happened was the Great Depression. Not just here in this country, it was a worldwide catastrophe, the Great Depression. Yep. And it was one of the causes of Germany falling into the hands of the Nazi Party. We may repeat that history where the Republican Party is so interested in looting the economy of this nation, they push us into a Great Recession or a Great Depression, at which point they get kicked out of office the same way. And, they were out of office for 20 years after that catastrophe because people remembered how it took 10 years to climb out of the Depression. And it took a world war for us to get our economy going again. We could have that again, where we could end up with another Great Depression, and that'll be the end of the Republican Party for at least 20 years. I have no idea. I hope we don't have to go that route. But if we don't have a peaceful revolution, we're going to have a much more. I have people who are afraid we're headed towards violence, not necessarily a civil war, but a lot of domestic violence by these white supremacist groups that have been emboldened. Yeah, the Supreme Court and Trump and everybody says it's okay. Let's go after the and the and them too.
Well, and again, Thomas said yesterday that they literally are going to be looking at these decisions that we all consider settled law. And this is something that I have said for 10 years. There's no such thing as settled law. Settled law is bullshit. Now, there should be. I agree with that. There is settled law. Law is only settled as long as the fanatics are not in charge, because these people have told you right from the get-go, as soon as they get the power, they're getting rid of those laws, or they're changing those laws.
Well, if they can overturn Loving versus Virginia, that it gets rid of Justice Thomas's marriage. And if they can get rid of the 14th Amendment, Ginny Thomas can own a slave of the man who used to be her husband. So,
right. They already demonstrated, and I don't think they'll go that far. But then again, who the hell knows at this point? What I'm saying is that they have demonstrated a reoccurring dedication to cutting off their own goddamn nose to spite all the rest of us. And again, the opinion that you see what happening to America, these are not the majority. Overall, Americans want sane gun control. Overall, Americans want everybody to have the same rights as everybody else. Overall, the majority of Americans think that abortion should be legal. These are a minority opinion. This is the same shit that happened in Iraq when the Ba'athists took over. This is one of the things that led to things like Saddam Hussein, which were a minority party ruling everybody else with an iron fist, and everybody who disagreed got put against the wall and shot in the front of the head and back. This is what's happened in every dictatorship where things have fallen apart. No matter how noble allegedly the goals are, ultimately what happens is that when a handful of fanatics take over, everybody else gets put against the goddamn wall and shot or herded into camps or however the hell they chose to resolve it. But the end result for the people that are on the receiving end is all the same. And then when it's all over, just like it was in Nazi Germany, had a whole bunch of real Germans talking about, oh, well, we didn't know and we feel terrible about it. And oh, man, we were Nazis. Yeah, but just like right now, you let it happen. And that's the example of Nazi Germany. And even Germany nowadays is very careful to teach that history so it doesn't happen in Germany again. And yet, right here in the United States of America, we let it happen. I'm going to tell you something, and I did this on purpose, and I have so far restrained myself from posting it, but I kept the screen caps of every goddamn liberal who came at me in 2016 and said, he won't be that bad. I can't vote for Hillary Clinton, but he won't be that. It won't get rid of abortion. They won't take out of the I've seen connection issue signs again. They take us out of the treaties, that Trump won't be this guy, Republicans won't go this far. I kept those screen caps. And to this day, I've got people literally saying to me, well, I didn't really say that. Yeah, you did. And I kept your fucking words. And eventually I'm going to get cheesed enough to post all of them and rub your nose in it. Because, again, we're in a position where, and I know people are mad. I'll get hate mail. I'm seeing it already. I'll get hate mail from people that are mad at me for saying so. But the bottom line is that we don't show up. We show up once every 4 years when the fate of the nation is on the line, man. It's Joe Biden or Donald Trump, and that's it. But when it's election for the dog catcher and the school board and the local yokels that are running your town, which are the same people that go on to be your state representatives, your state senators, your state governors, the people who send the electors to the electoral college from your state, we don't show up. I live in a town where the guy that is my councilman that represents the ward that I'm in, that guy ran for office by standing on the porch of his house holding an AR-15 and talking about how he was going to defend Santa Rosa County from black people. I was on the TV. Like I said BLM. He didn't say black people. He said BLM, because some black people are good, but then BLMs, And now his wife's running for office. And they're going to win. Now, half this county allegedly is Democrat, and yet those people are running things. The entire school board is a bunch of right-wing, Christian, conservative, young earth creations. And your choice is just the flavor of how crazy they are. There's 100 signs out here on my bike route every morning where I'm looking at elections for the school board, and all the signs say things like education, not indoctrination. I'll run the school board and I won't be woke. They're on the signs out here, man. These are the people that get elected. And half of this county is supposedly Democrat, and yet Matt Gaetz is our congressman. This is what I'm talking about. By the time you get to the presidential election every 4 years, it's too goddamn late. You got to show up. You got to show up every time. And that's the problem. Fanatics show up every time. These right-wing nut bars have shown up for every election, no matter how minor, for the last 40 years, since Lee Atwater said them. Since Lee Atwater told them that if they didn't elect Richard Nixon, then the hippie candidate McGovern was going to take over, and all the black people were going to be running stuff. That's literally the campaign that Nixon ran on. Southern strategy. And those people have shown up terrified every day for 40, 50 years now. And here we are. These people literally are so terrified they'd rather have Matt Gaetz, the pedophile, because he's anti-abortion. I don't know what to tell you, man. You're dealing with cults, brainwashing. And I don't know that it can be stopped now. And I hate to sound pessimistic. But again, traditionally, where the left chokes is in the midterms. All you have to do is look at 2010 to see that. And so here we are. We're coming up on Joe Biden's midterm. We're hanging on to Congress by our teeth, hanging on to the Senate by no votes. And I see people looking at us saying, well, I don't know. Maybe Trump wasn't that bad.
Look, it's a very difficult decision. If you go into a restaurant and they say we have a plate of horse shit mixed with broken glass, or we have over here a nice McDonald's Big Mac, which would you like? Oh, the horse shit sounds good.
Yeah.
So, I can't stand McDonald's. I won't eat McDonald's. Yeah, I'll have the plate of horse shit with broken glass.
What's the line somebody said? I don't know. I forget it. I'd like to attribute it, but I can't remember who the hell it was. I saw it on Twitter where the guy said, your choice on the airplane, Americans. Human shit with broken glass or chicken, and you ask how the chicken's cooked, right. And again,
I'll tell you, we need campaign finance reform. We have to get the corporations and the billionaires out of our politics. We need campaign finance reform. Do that, and it makes it a lot harder for some people to get into office. And then after that, I haven't been in favor of term limits for senators. Mitch McConnell makes me think of, I can't wait for him to stroke out. Mitch McConnell has to go.
My God, man, I was fit my whole life. And, I know. I see Rebecca Jones ahead. It's always how it is, guys. I'm very aware of what's happening in my district right now, but you don't live here. And I just drove David around here. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. All right, we'll see. Maybe Rebecca Jones will pull it off. That'd be awesome. I don't know. We'll see. But again, I've lost track of what the hell I was saying, and I know what it was. You're talking about Mitch McConnell stroking out. My goddamn, man! I swear. I was fit my whole life. I was in the military, ran in this horrible heat, and then I hit 60, and everything went to hell. McConnell, how is that goddamn dying every day? when's he going to need heart stents, for Christ's sake? I mean, God damn it, man. I mean, Donald Trump, this guy is, I don't know what the opposite of healthy is, but it's got to have Trump's picture at it, because that guy, I don't want to bust on anybody's physicality, but God damn, man, that guy is the epitome. He's the don't do this picture in every doctor's office.
He's the before picture. He's the before picture.
He's the before picture. He's the picture on the slab in every doctor's office from here to Bangalore. And I mean, goddamn,
he may not make it to the 2024 election. And I posted this thought the other day that
that's not my dog barking, folks. That's David's dog.
As long as he keeps hinting he's going to run and talking that he might run, he gets to keep running his con game of donate money to me, and he also gets to manage the Republican Party. He still controls. Right. He still controls his base. The minute he says he's not running, the Republican Party becomes a free-for-all, with Ron DeSantis probably being the front runner. But
DeSantis is going to, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, but as long as Trump plays this game, now he may decide, when they get to the primaries, he may decide, you know what, I'm not going to run. And he's got it as long as he can. But if he does run, then you get DeSantis and Trump fighting with each other. And if you get a really big, vicious fight between two leading candidates, it doesn't matter who gets the nomination. They've damaged the base.
Right.
So
it is, like I said, though, it'd be, I don't know. At this point, it's too early to call, but I suspect everything you just said is correct. I suspect ultimately the Republican candidate in 2024 is going to be Ron DeSantis, though if John F. Kennedy Jr. does come back from the dead, I will put money on Trump. But literally, I drove you past signs down here with Donald Trump and JFK Jr. 2024. I don't even know how to deal with that kind of, and forgive me, folks, I hate to say this, but I don't know how to deal with, that's a mental illness, okay? And I don't even know how to deal with that. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that's mentally ill believes in JFK Jr., but
let me talk on my own experience. And I know that, and I have had a lot of experience with large group awareness trainings, and I've done all kinds: martial arts, communication, how to lead how to teach, how to lead a course, how to invite people into, all kinds of great things, and all about personal effectiveness and how to create positive relationships. Because if I look at my past, I wasn't good at relationships. I didn't have friends, and I wanted to do courses to find out what was wrong with me. Turns out there's nothing wrong with me. It's everybody else's fault.
It's everybody else's fault. God damn it.
But seriously, it's like they started asking me to assist, and eventually I was team captain managing whole trainings, and eventually I was even leading trainings. And one of the things, the hardest lesson to learn is some people are uncoachable. Some people do not want to get better. They don't want to be effective. They are comfortable in their self-righteous. They don't want their ignorance challenged. And it is very,
Twitter.
I mean, and
describe Twitter.
We never get them to the training room, because you have to be committed to letting go of the bullshit in life to get to the training room. But in the enrollment invitation opportunities, we would run into people who you would just walk away shaking your head saying, I can't believe that after 4 billion years of evolution, this is what we've gotten. And I was like, no, this is
That's
the
me, man. That's me saying that every day.
Yeah, I was like, this is, and I tell you, it's very sad. I walk away feeling broken and sad, because I know what is possible when you learn compassion and empathy and connection and intimacy and just the joy you feel contributing to another person and watching them light up. It's such an amazing experience. You know it. You've been there. And when you see people rejecting it out of hand because they're comfortable, well, you know what the comfort zone is? That's the zone of resignation. That's what you've settled for. I've settled for this and I'm not giving it up. I was like, yeah, but you could have so much more. I'm comfortable with this and I'm not giving it up. No, we're not asking you to give up anything. We're asking you to have more. No, I'm comfortable with this. I'm not giving it up. It's like, okay, I give up.
Well, you literally described the area that I live in, and you saw it. These people, and I've said this before, I probably say this every podcast, is that they literally get angry if their children do better than they did. You don't get above your station. You don't get outside of that zone. I had a woman yell at me because her son married a woman from Canada, and that woman, said that she liked Canada as much as she liked America, and that people in Canada were happy. And this person that I know was very angry about that, because that Canada is not as good as America. And she was mad about it. And I said to her, have you, just out of curiosity,
all over the world. I've traveled all over the world, and there are things we can learn from. There are things we can learn from China, things we could learn from Scotland, things we can learn from Finland and Iceland, there's things we can learn from Australia. There are things we are not learning from other nations because we bought into this bullshit of American exceptionalism.
Well, and that's exactly what I said to her. I said, have you ever been to Canada? No. I don't need to go there. I know that America is better. And she knew America was better because her preacher told her so, and the guy with the little bow tie on Fox News tells her so. She doesn't need to go there and see it for herself.
I was in Hong Kong in 2007, and everywhere I went, everybody was using flat screen monitors. I thought, whoa, I now know what the future looks like. I get home, and the phone I was using there could make video calls. Right. I get back to the United States, and everybody's still using CRTs, and then they had the flip phones or the whatever. And it was 2-3 years before here in America, before the flat screens reached market penetration. They actually didn't hit the market until after I'd already seen them ubiquitous in Hong Kong. And I thought, what is wrong with America? We cannot have American exceptionalism if we're ignoring what's possible in the world. And that's part of the propaganda that's going on. They want to turn us into a third world country because it's easier to control us then.
Yeah, but I've been in third world countries that are not facing the kind of things that America is facing right now. More than anything, I think America is a victim of affluence, of having everything our way for 100 years. And nowadays, I tell you, I run into people, and I've said this before right here, I run into people every day that are driving $70,000 trucks and that are hauling home 70, 80-inch flat screen TVs from Walmart, and that are smoking $400 worth of cigarettes a month, bitching about how terrible they got it. And part of this too is I think that America was fairly united. We certainly had our differences and yada yada, and you can spend all day pointing to them. But as long as the Soviet Union existed, there's this big boogeyman on the other side of the world that nobody knew anything about behind the Iron Curtain, and our politicians could make up whatever bullshit they wanted to about it. We're fairly united as a nation where because we had that big enemy. The worst thing that ever happened to America is the Soviet Union collapsing, because now all of a sudden, well, we won. What the fuck do we do now? We didn't even win. They forfeited. They just quit. And now Americans don't have a national goal. We're not trying to get to the moon. We're not trying to beat the Soviets. We don't have some big enemy. We got all this military power and all this money. We ain't got nowhere to use it on. And so everybody's mad at it, And then you have TV telling you all day, your neighbors, they hate everybody. And again, you've heard me say this over and over again. I mean, I drove you past the house. There's a guy down here in my little shitty town that's mad at trans people. This guy's probably never met a trans person that he knows of in his entire fucking life. But goddamn, it's so important to him. He's got a 10-foot high sign in the front yard. That's America. That's America. We're mad about shit we don't even know. We don't even know what we're mad about.
I don't know how many trans friends I have. It must be over a dozen. And it's like they are some of the most interesting and intelligent people I know, because they have taken the time to examine their own lives. What do I have to do to make my body match my soul? And they are and the conversations they have are literate and intelligent because they've taken the time to do some soul spelunking. And but the idea that these are dangerous people, no fucking way. It's like,
well, I tell you what, after the last week of the shit that's been going on after the last week, I have never been to a drag queen story hour at the local library in my entire life. Never even knew about drag queen story hour, but goddamn, I'm going now because it sounds like a lot of fun. And again, the part that I don't get is, I'll bet a month ago, 95% of the people that are pissed off about this never even heard. They were like me. They never even heard of this shit. It's something in their life. And it had no effect on them whatsoever. but now God damn it, they're madder than hell about it. And
But, you know,
angry, so angry they're on it. Right.
Jim, part of this comes from the right-wing think tanks that issue pronouncements about the talking points, and we noticed this on CompuServe during in 1990, whatever it was, when Bill Clinton was being investigated for a blowjob.
Right.
And peeping
those innocent days.
the national pornographer, and all of a sudden, all of the right wingers who were posting were suddenly referring to him as Judge Kenneth Starr, and it was like
right. What the hell is that all about? Right.
And I came back at them. Did this the right wing talking point that you were told to beat on today? Right. And I was just started confronting him and says, I know you're getting your talking points from a think tank. How about you think for your fucking self? I didn't say fucking because you couldn't say that on CompuServe. But how about you think for yourself and stop repeating these slogans coming from these think tanks that are nothing but propaganda factories?
Right.
And they blocked me.
Yeah, of course they did, because this is where we're at. This is, again, there's a lot of money in making people hate each other until it all falls apart. That's the thing, and that's what happened in Nazi Germany. And again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but it is the pertinent example. We spent a decade building power by villainizing a group of people that nobody gave a shit about. European Jews, nobody cared. They were weird. They were different. They had money. They looked different. Easy to vilify them because nobody gave a shit about it. Just like trans people today, right? And then the problem with that kind of building power on that kind of hate is you have to keep going further because there's no end to it. Well, you don't just one day say, hey, we're in power now. Oh, by the way, we said about the Jews. Don't worry about that. That was just crap. We just use that to get in power. You can't say that. What you have to say at that point is, they're coming to eat your babies. We got to put them in the camps to be safe. And that's the same goddamn thing that's happening right here in the United States of America. You can see the same goddamn trend.
Let me give you this. This
only ends one way.
Once you understand this, it all makes sense. The Holocaust was not about killing Jews. The Holocaust, Nazi Germany had gone into a Great Depression, and they could not dig their way out because the Versailles Treaty pretty much kept the nation bankrupt. They couldn't afford to pay their reparations for World War I. So Germany needed to get a source of wealth. And the Nazi Party targeted Jews and other minorities so they could seize their property, seize their land, seize their artwork, their furniture, their jewels, and eventually their gold teeth. It was the mass seizure of hundreds of billions of dollars of other people's wealth. It wasn't about killing. It was about taking their wealth. It was an economic restoration project. And the gas chambers were, well, what do we do with all these homeless?
Now what do we do with them? Right. That's like I said.
All right. Well, we'll kill them. And first we'll work them to death. We can get 6 weeks out of a Jew, and then they don't have any more strength. Then we'll kill them. And that was the whole. It was the Holocaust was an economic mechanism for looting hundreds of billions of dollars into the German economy. Now the SS officers got it first, but there was a lot that filtered down. The Germans were saying, look how good Germany is doing. We have schnitzel, and we have bratwurst, and we have the beer.
Grass is green, trees are blooming.
Yeah, and we have the Autobahn, and we have the Volkswagen, and we have all this stuff. Right. And they were very happy because their economy was booming. Well, their economy depended on going to war, and that was the disaster. Now, come forward in time, and here we have the corporations looting the economy. Fascism is the true definition of fascism is government run by business, by corporations. Right. And that's what we have right now. We are heading into a fascist regime where our government is being controlled by corporations.
Right. And you're seeing the same messages. You're seeing the same
thing. Here's who you have to hate. And if we hate them enough, we can take them, we'll take away their property, and we can execute them. That is, it's the playbook. The playbook is there following the same steps.
It's somebody just said there in the comments, the Holocaust didn't begin at Auschwitz.
No,
that's right. It began in the 1990s, in the teens, in the 20s, And you're seeing the same thing here. And this is the part that kills me. And I've written extensively about this online, and I get pushback on it almost every day where people say, we're nothing like Nazi Germany. We're not like Nazi Germany in 1945, but we're a hell of a lot like Germany in 1932. And this is the part that you're missing, right? And I will also say, I see this. I do things, and as those of you who have followed me for a long time know, I don't write things by mistake. I sometimes make typos, but when I write stuff and I include things on purpose. The other day, I had some asshole on Twitter talking about it was okay for money to go to Christian schools, but you didn't want government money going to Muslim schools where they might be teaching the Quran and teaching children to hate America, right? Okay. And what I said to him was, listen, man, in America, if you're going to support one religion, you have to support all of them. And so if I'm going to send money, if my tax dollars are going to go to Christian school, then they got to go to a Muslim school, and they got to go to Jewish school, and they got to go to Scientology schools. And liberals were with me right up until that last word, man. And as soon as I said Scientology, all of a sudden I got 100 comments from the left saying, no, Scientology is a cult, not those sons of bitches. That's not a real religion. And it was word for word, the same thing that the guy who hated Muslims was saying from the right-hand side. That's how it happens. It's either everybody has the same rights or nobody has the same rights. But when some people have rights and some people don't, the end result is always the same. And all you have to do is look at history. Now, personally, I would prefer, just to follow up on that, personally, I prefer my tax dollars not go to support any religious schools. However, if you're going to support one, then everybody, I don't care if there's 3 people in the religion, gets a piece. That's how it's going to work. Because as soon as you say these people are not worthy, the end result is Germany, 1945. And
well,
I'm surprised. Hey, Bob, where the hell is Bob? It's 12:12, man. I'm surprised you haven't rolled in here and cut us off.
The worst part of the Holocaust supposed to begin in 1941 with the Wannsee Conference. That got postponed because of Pearl Harbor. January of 1942, the Wannsee Conference was the decision made to go to the final solution. And there have been a number of documentaries and even video recreations of the Wannsee Conference. It's very telling and very, very disturbing.
All right. I'm surprised, man. There's rules, Bob. What the hell, man? You're the guy you're the public.
Bob,
you're supposed to be enforcing the rules, man.
Here, Bob.
It's just chaos. It's just going to devolve into chaos.
Yeah,
it's
we
not
got
chaos
today.
It is
we
two
have
of the most
the gay agenda
thinkers.
today. I have to do the gay agenda.
Gay agenda day.
I got to get a quiche into the oven.
Oh, what time, man? I
don't even like quiche, and it's the gay agenda says I have to put a quiche in the oven.
Dude, I'm not gay, and I love quiche, so
you can have my share. I just like baked eggs.
I just know that over on my agenda, I've so far done all on my agenda that I have.
Or got cited
Next
anyway.
on my agenda is eating brisket after this is done. But you guys, come on, you're 2 of the finest thinkers and communicators in North.
That's what I'm worried about.
I got to tell you, the finest, what the hell is wrong with everybody else? It's like, we're in worse trouble than
That's not a compliment, man.
Hey, if you look back in the feed about 20 minutes ago, I asked the question, should I tell them?
Oh,
and they all said no, right? They said, let them go. Let them go.
Oh, that's right. They keep hoping. Like I said, I'm fairly sure that most of these people follow us just because they're sure that sooner or later we're going to off ourselves in some spectacularly hilarious fashion that they don't want to miss it.
Oh, no, guys, but I do thank you for coming. And Jim and David, there's no smoke being blown when I say that you guys are spectacular folks in doing this. And by the way, you got that book finished, Jim?
Hey, look, don't start with this. It ain't Jim, buddy. It's Jim and David, all right? David and Jim. He's the lead.
Yeah.
Right?
We have the outline. We have the outline.
We do.
And
We have it
I
blocked
have
out.
such a full plate since getting back. I have not had a chance to do more than 2 paragraphs. And I'm walking around with this thing in my head is I got to write this. I got to write this. I got to write this. And Jim, you'll get more. By the way,
I put 1,000 words down on paper or electronic version of paper this week. They're probably all crap, but at least I'm doing something. So we're working on it, man. We're working on it.
I've rewritten the stuff I sent you, and I still have more to do. And it's just, I'm taking a mental health weekend. Tomorrow I get serious.
We're gonna all need to. Like you said, you've seen pictures of bees. It's 100. It's 100. It's well over 100 degrees here, and the humidity is unbelievable. And
by the way, let me do a commercial. Those of you who are visiting my Facebook page, I have written a pretty good Sherlock Holmes story. Watson has to investigate Sherlock's murder, and Sherlock is murdered, and Watson has to investigate. And it's a pretty good story, and I'm trying an experiment. If you want to get a copy of it, go to my Facebook page, and it'll tell you where to send a PayPal payment of like less than $5, and within 24 hours or later, as soon as I get back to the keyboard, you'll get a download link to read this story. And it's been getting very nice reactions and responses. So if you want to read a Sherlock Holmes story that really, I think it's pretty good, come to my Facebook page.
Yeah. Yep, you can't go wrong. One of the David, just to plug on how old David is. David's influence on how I became a writer.
Remind me to send you a copy, Jim. I will send you a copy because I think you'll like it. It shows that if I put my mind to it, I can write something worth reading. So.
Did Heinlein ever write a Sherlock Holmes story?
Did who? Heinlein? No.
Heinlein, I don't think so. I thought it was really his thing. I don't think.
August Derleth used to write. He didn't write Sherlock Holmes because it was copyright. He wrote Solar Ponds, but they were Sherlock Holmes stories. And but now that Sherlock is in public domain, a lot of people are having fun at his expense. So.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, I just thought that if Heinlein didn't write it, probably having a Heinlein Award winner write one is a.
I'm surprised you're not wearing your medal, man. That medal's like the size of a Nobel Prize, man. I'm surprised you're not wearing that, man.
I'm wearing it. I'm walking around saying, "Eat your heart out."
I've been wearing that baby to the deli, man.
I got Heinlein on my medal. So
I'd be wearing that medal everywhere.
Oh, it's heavy. It's made. It's pure silver. So I don't know what it is. I'm walking hunched over like that.
Nobel Prize has got nothing on that medal. It was here in my house. That medal was here in my house.
But
I could have poisoned it, but it would have been my medal.
Yeah, but I put it where I could see it when I get up in the morning, so that it reminds me, you got to live with this asshole.
Right. All right, you better cut it off there.
Yeah, let's stop there before I start using those 4-letter words like,
Oh, you guys may have gotten me my first warning from Facebook, but I don't care. Because I mean, we are on the edge of having it all being taken away. And what Jim said, vote. David said, vote. And I'm going to say, get out there on the streets, because I'm going to make this sales pitch. Like I said earlier, joking, I went out with my sister and my nephew today, and we got out on the streets with our main street with our signs, and we protested because, and the reason I say that, because people need to know that there are other people in the town, in your space, that will stand up, that will believe, that are opposed to this, that think that is wrong. And if nobody ever stands up in the street and said this is wrong, then that person driving down that back street, they think that they're the only person bothered by this. We have to let all of us know that we are not alone in thinking that the Republican Party is out to turn us into basically.
They want to bring back slavery. They won't call it slavery, but they want to create economic slavery, and they're come damn close, because corporations are paying below living wages, and the government has to pick up the slack. We need a living wage law, and it has to be updated as the cost of living goes up, the minimum wage goes up, and we need a living wage law. And because once people have enough money, they can take responsibility for their lives. One of the things that you keep people desperate, they're not going to get politically active. They don't have the time or the money or if women were getting a living wage for the work they were doing, equal pay for equal work, they would have money to contribute to political causes that benefit women. That's one of the reasons why the Republican Party does not want women to have equal pay. They don't want that. They don't want that money being contributed to their opposition, which is exactly what.
And now that you've criminalized miscarriages and abortions, once they're felon, they don't get to vote either. That's your side.
And just link the minimum wage to military pay. Military pay isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it does go up on occasion.
Yeah, depending on who's in power.
Hasn't been raised in like 20 years or something like that. I forget, like 2009, something like that.
It goes. I mean, military pay goes up every year, but like the minimum wage has. Yeah, like you said, I think the last time minimum wage has gone up was like.
We need a minimum. We need a living wage and Social Security and veterans pay and military pay all has to be pegged to what the living wage is. Once we establish that, we will have created an economic boom that even the corporations will make more money, which they don't understand. It's right now, it's very short-sighted. How much money can we make today? Some friends took me to Disneyland yesterday. We had a great time, but I was very much aware that the Disney parks have become such a cash cow. You now have to pay for an extra app, which gives you the equivalent of a fast pass, so you don't have to wait in line. It's like,
right.
This, used to be you'd get the ticket and you'd come back at the right time, and now you have to pay, and it's all done with your apps on your phone, which you pay for. You want a reservation, pay for this. You want this ride, pay for that. It's like Walt's going to come screaming out of his grave because people can't afford Disneyland anymore unless they're upper middle class. Yeah, it's like
I had a T-shirt that said this ride requires an
Disneyland, and we don't. And it's like, do we want to fix up the kitchen or do we want to go to Disneyland?
Fix the kitchen.
I understand.
You hear that? My son says fix the kitchen.
Yeah, your son says fix the kitchen. Hey, Sean, the bottom line here is that again, David's absolutely right. We are between the recent Supreme Court decisions, and not just the abortion, but a flurry of decisions that have been made recently, and the trends that we're on. We are creating a class society, the haves and the have-nots, and America started out this way, and it's only been a very short time. The people that are voting for this stuff don't remember what the hell it was like before this. You're going to wind up in a boat where about 6 people own everything, and you're going to pay them for the privilege of eating out of their garbage can, and that's exactly where this is going. It used to be if you worked for the coal company or Pullman train cars or the steel mill, you lived in the company town and you ate company food and you shopped at the company grocery store and you went to the company church, you saw the company doctor. You didn't own shit. And prior to World War II, there wasn't any middle class. People didn't own their own houses. They lived in apartment buildings owned by other people in the cities. We're headed back in that direction right now. And a lot of people seem to think that's the way they want to go. I mean, hell, all you got to do is log into Twitter, type in the words Elon Musk to see that number of people who think it's just awesome that the richest guy in the world should be fucking running everything. And you can follow that guy on Twitter, and he is the worst troll on that platform. And you have a shitload of people who really think that he ought to be in charge of everything, including their lives. Figure that out. I will tell you right now, man, I have been an enthusiast of space exploration and colonization since I grew up when they were landing, when they were launching Gemini, when they were putting people into space for the very first time. And so the stuff's in my blood. But I will tell you flat out that I've wanted to go my entire life. I wanted to be with the first colony mission my entire life. But there's no way in hell that I'm volunteering to spend the rest of my life in a tin can breathing Musk's cabbage farts on Mars. I can tell you that right now. So, again, folks, it's we got to get the hell out of here. But
Thank you.
there's a lot of folks.
That's my cue to
Right.
That's my
All
cue
this
to interrupt you.
All this stuff
Next
relates.
week.
Right. Hang on. All this stuff relates to each other. This mindset of rich people running things, this idea that six people on the Supreme Court should have arbitrary control over who gets rights and who doesn't get rights, that the state, so long as it pays lip service to the dominant religion, gets to decide whose life matters and whose life doesn't. These things are all part of a set piece. And the only way that we change this, short of civil war, is to show the fuck up. And this is it, man. You're there. This is the moment. I don't know what else to say. See you next week.
Thank you, Jim, because this is the moment. Now, at the end of this moment, Bob, as I said, I'm in Texas. Bless its heart. You know, we've made a whole list of things that we can explain away by being in Texas. Like the person that I was with the store with my sister. She's blind, so she was holding on to my arm. They told me we made a wonderful couple. And I said, she's my sister. And then she said, well, we're in Texas. Yeah. So all I'm going to say is that we're moving to Tonopah next weekend. We're going to be at Westercon.
Oh,
where
okay.
And I got I'm going to have books from that feature both of your works there. And I want you to remember that I think Westercon has an online parts of it. So go there.
Talk about the place people away from, not to. So.
Yeah. And so all I can say is thank you, and everybody wave goodbye at the nice people who have stuck with us. Thank you much, and bye-bye.
All right. Punch us out.
All right. Are we
okay.
done?